Boom. There is no escaping now, Christel.
What?
Nope, that's it. You're here. You're stuck with me, and I do appreciate it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome. Bula. Do you have a drink?
I do.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Little
for having
signature
me.
sweet. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Bula.
Ooh.
So I think this is going to be a really exciting conversation. Very timely and important. But before we dive into the kind of the belly of the beast, I usually like to start these with, who are you and what do you do?
So I am Christel Brady, and I am a recruiter. So I hire, interview, find talented folks for opportunities.
Awesome. And I know that we're in a place right now where there's a lot of, or in a time right now where there's a lot of businesses that have now hiring signs in the window, whether it be corporate America, whether it be mom and pop shops, people are looking for staff. It also seems like when I go to Walmart, the only people who are working are people that would have never gotten called back for a second interview. And I don't know if that's just me, but it's a weird time where I don't know if people are overqualified for the positions that are hiring. But I know that you came today with kind of like a good look at how to present yourself in the best light when looking for a job.
Exactly. Yeah. And the job market right now is for you guys, for people looking for job opportunities, because a lot of places are short staffed and a lot of things have changed over the last 2 years. People, with COVID had time to reflect on their own lives, what's important to them. And, a lot of people have changed directions and shifted gears. And so it is a job seekers market out there.
So it's a job seekers market if we're looking for a job, we have an upper hand because
Yes.
they are in such need of us.
Right.
Right.
But it still means that you need to show that you're interested in the job. And I have some tips and tricks for you to make sure that you stand out from other candidates looking. But it's very important still to present yourself well and show your worth and quality and your experience and all that.
Don't show up like a slump because
No.
you think that they need me and they're going to hire me no matter what.
I can't tell you how many interviews I've had with candidates that are slouching or just, haven't prepared. And I'll teach you all that stuff today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now you're a recruiter. I have a little bit of understanding of like what I've heard the term of a headhunter. So I've had some friends who do staffing like around the country, and they're like a third-party staffer where they have a company who says, all right, we have a position. We're willing to pay $100,000 a year for this position. You can fill it for whatever somebody's willing to do it for, and you get to keep the difference. So these people will then call qualified employees, potential, and then get them excited about the job and say, and they're going to pay you $80,000, and then they get to keep the difference. But I think that can be a little bit of predatory, essentially, and maybe those third-party lenders, third-party recruiters, no offense to any of my friends who are, it's a little different from what you do, correct? Because you do recruiting for a specific company.
Right. But great news is I did work for a staffing agency before doing their corporate recruiting side. So I am very familiar with recruiting recruiters that do that type of work. And so at staffing companies, they do get a percentage for placing you on a job. Usually always there's a contract involved. So for more higher end positions, like you said, if the salary is $100,000, the recruiter might get 20% of that,
right,
or a percentage of that. If it's an hourly role, like at the company I previously worked at, they would work through the company. The company would pay them, let's say, $15 an hour, but they would charge the client that you're helping them find somebody for maybe $20, $30 an hour.
Yep.
So there's a markup on that on your head. That's why they're called headhunters.
Headhunters, right. I've worked for a company like that where we did Home Depot resets, where we would go in and fly to Arkansas, rip apart a Home Depot garden center overnight, and rebuild it with new shelves, right? Well, I was getting paid $15 an hour, but I know that the guy who hired me was getting $25 an hour for my position, so he was keeping that $10 an hour difference on like 10 guys, so I'm familiar with that as well.
And some of that percentage too doesn't necessarily all go to the recruiter. Some of it goes back into the company, and they may get even a smaller percentage of whatever that is.
Interesting. I've heard from companies like Publix. It's a shame. It was Thanksgiving. They were so short-staffed, And I talked to the manager who was on the floor, and he said, I've never in my life had so many people schedule an interview and then not show up for the interview, which I think is a problem with the unemployment structure where you have to show that you're looking for work. And obviously this is not along the lines of what you do, but it's like, it's a little frustrating. Thank you so much, babe. Look at that. Service with a smile. It's a little frustrating that people are so comfortable like not working. But this conversation is going to be for people who are looking for work and who want to leverage their skills and talents to get high pay in a great job where they're comfortable, right?
Exactly. And I also want to mention too, just kind of piggybacking off of the staffing agency, I also do, corporate recruiting. So I don't get paid for anybody that I place. So I'm just genuinely looking for candidates. So if you typically apply directly at a company, on their company website, or, that sort of thing, if it's not through a third-party agency like Robert Half or Aerotech, typically you'd be talking to an internal recruiter who does not get a commission off of you. They're genuinely trying to find the right fit.
Which is important to know, that they're not trying to make money off of you.
Right.
That they could be really interested in you as an employee.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. I know that you have some notes.
I do.
Well, I think it's really good to be organized and make sure we get all of your thoughts across. So if you want to reference your notes, that's totally cool. What do you got there?
Well, it definitely is. I hear a lot of people say, well, how come I haven't heard back after I applied somewhere? Or how come it takes several weeks to hear back? And what's really funny is actually today I got a voicemail from a company that I applied to 3 months ago asking to interview me. And you must be like, why is this? How come they don't get back to me? Well, think about it this way. With the short-staffed, people everywhere, there's typically one recruiter reviewing a job requisition, or maybe they have 40 job requisitions like I have.
Yeah.
And with high-volume positions like customer service or accounting or those types of roles, they get hundreds of applicants in maybe a week, and there's one person reviewing them. So sometimes it takes time. So I'll go through, some tips later on too that kind of help you stand out from the crowd and get through the process a little faster.
Do you think it's in poor taste to quote unquote harass if you haven't heard from them in a week? Like my dad would tell me, call them. Right. I've also heard a story about a gentleman who, this was years ago, was a friend's dad. He got laid off, and he went to another company, and he sat in the lobby every day for a month from open to close. They're like, sir, I'm sorry, we can't see you. We don't need. He said, well, I'll just stay here then because I don't have a job. And and he eventually, short story long, he ended up getting hired for that company, working for them for 30 years because they saw that he was dedicated. And my dad has always also told me that looking for a job should be treated like a job, right? Like it should be a 9-to-5 hustle, that you should not just sit around and wait for people to call. Is there a fine line there between being pushy and being motivated?
It's so funny you say that. What came to mind is if you think about it like creepy people that aren't really creepy, but they come across that way.
Yeah.
You got to think about that with, the way you communicate about a job with HR, recruiter, or whatever place you're looking for a job. You don't want to, go borderline harassment with it, but you can do it in a professional way where you're showing that you're interested and engaged, but you're not crossing that boundary of stalking or harassing. Or
Yeah, understood. It's like a weekly follow-up fair.
Typically what I would say is, let's say you apply to a job and you're really interested in it. You're not just serial applying to hundreds of gazillion jobs, but if there's a job or two or a handful of jobs that you're really, really interested in, a day or two after you apply, go on Google, find the number of the office that you're working at. If it's a remote job, find the headquarters, find a phone number, call, and keep it really simple and just say, hey, this is my name. I just applied to this job. I'm really excited about this opportunity. Who can I talk to about this? I'd love to talk to somebody. And then they'll connect you. And actually, that's how I got one of my jobs. I applied the next day. I called. I just Googled the office, got the phone number, called, and talked to my manager at the time.
Which it shows them that you are interested and you're not just flood filling out applications. But I think it's also important that you follow their funnel the way that they want you to do it. Like a lot of people will say, you'll show up to Publix and they say, yeah, you have to apply online. Like, don't skip those steps. Even though it is nice to, like, I'm old school. Like, I want to put my resume in the hand of the hiring manager. And sometimes it feels like when you're not doing that, like maybe you feel like your resume doesn't read as well as you would present. So I understand there's a fine line there.
Definitely. And if you have an email, you can definitely follow up. And if you don't hear back from them, again, like I said, recruiters have a very busy schedule. They're constantly interviewing, reviewing high volume applications. They sometimes can't get back to everybody. So don't take it personally. It's okay if you're not a fit. It's okay if they don't get back to you. There's another great job opportunity for you around the corner, and maybe it was meant to be that you find something else.
Yeah, I love that. Where do people start? So somebody's sitting at home and they're ready for a change in their career, or they're ready to start a career and get out of their retail position or whatever. Do you suggest going to some of these? Is it called what's the name of like a hiring convention?
A career fair.
A career fair. Do they still do career fairs, or?
Yes, they do. They're doing them in person now. They also do them virtually. I've done a couple virtual career fairs, and it's really, really cool. You get like one-on-one, you can go on video and everything. And actually, I wrote down some points because I didn't want to forget anything that's really critical. So when you are looking for a job, what I'd recommend is if there's a company that you're really interested, or an industry, like for example, with me, I'm in engineering. So I wanted to work for an engineering company. I went on Google, I searched all the engineering companies. So I looked at the ones that were interesting to me, and I applied to them directly on their website. So if you know the company or know the industry, go on Google, find the company website, look at their jobs, apply directly to the company. Another option is LinkedIn or job boards like Indeed, Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, Monster. You can go on various job boards. Indeed's pretty popular, so I'd recommend definitely checking there and in LinkedIn. Also, alumni networks, maybe where you went to school, they have alumni programs, and it will connect you with someone you went to school with, which usually helps you get in it, because you know somebody.
Sometimes it's who you know.
Who you know.
Yeah, and you should leverage that. Another thing that I like to say is that just because you don't know somebody doesn't mean that they're not a phone call away. Right? I've learned that in my lifetime. It's like, it's a who you know type industry, but you got to go, meet the people, shake the hands, make the phone calls, introduce yourself.
I have a story for you that actually just happened a couple days ago. True. So another way to find jobs is through your network of friends, family, people you meet. I actually met somebody the other day when I was out and about in the town. We started talking. She's a recruiter also, and she was like, hey, do you know anybody who's looking for a remote recruiter job? And I was like, well, I'll let you know. Well, actually, yesterday, one of my old colleagues from my old job reached out to me, and she's like, Christel, I can't work here anymore. I can't stand it. My manager's a micromanager. Get me out of here. And I said, well, guess what? I'm like, I met somebody the other day. I connected with them, on LinkedIn. And actually, when I did talk to that other recruiter, right then and there, I said, let's connect on LinkedIn, because you never know. So we connected right away. And then I got a text message from that girl at my old job, and she sent me this really long paragraph text saying, Christel, thank you so much for connecting me with that recruiter. We talked for an hour. I have an interview on Monday. Like, you never know who you're going to meet, within your network to change your life or somebody else's.
Yeah, and that's a good point about how you conduct yourself just when you're like going through the world. You never know who's going to be a hiring manager at a place, or if you're at a current job now, you're serving tables, right? If you're the type of person who talks trash about upper management and whatnot, even though you feel like this server next to you, it gets it, 5 years from now, they could be the hiring manager at a new place you want to be, and they're going to think, oh, I remember Blake. He was the guy who would always talk shit about upper management. So it's important to always present yourself in the best light, even no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Right. And going on that, a major turnoff when you're interviewing is bashing your previous employer and why you want to leave. So you want to be very, careful about that and tread the waters lightly, but be honest. You don't want to say this. I don't like when people say this, growth opportunities. Everybody wants growth opportunities. Be a little more specific about what you're looking for. What does growth mean to you? Are you looking for more pay? Are you looking to learn more knowledge? Are you looking to transition out of what you're doing and go in another industry? Like, be more specific about that, and that will, also help you stand out.
Interesting.
I also want to mention too, which is really cool. Instead of you looking for jobs, if you want the jobs to come to you, you can go on LinkedIn, make sure your profile looks really good, up to date with everything. And there's an open to section on your profile, and you can open yourself up to opportunities. And what's really cool about that feature
Interesting.
is that you can set it up so it flags your profile that you're looking so everybody can see. Or if you want to be discreet about it, you can select the more discreet option where the flag isn't on there, but recruiters like myself and other companies can go in the back door and see who's actually looking and find you based on the keywords that you put in your profile. So you want to make sure you put some good keywords in there. Like if you're in customer service, put customer service. If you're in finance and accounting, put the different programs that you use and that sort of thing. Because as a recruiter, we search for keywords within somebody's profile. So you don't necessarily have to go out there and hunt, but if you go out there and hunt, you can also have them hunt for you too, which is really cool.
Yeah, it seems like LinkedIn is an awesome tool, as long as you put your profile together in a professional manner. Do you suggest like a professional headshot? Is that as important as it was in the past? I mean, you don't maybe want to use your Facebook profile picture when you are partying with your girlfriends, right?
Right. I mean, think about what brand you want to make for yourself and what job you're going for. Like if you're going for a professional corporate job, yes, you want a professional photo, a nice blouse, a blazer, a nice clean backdrop, whether it's a plain wall or maybe bushes outside. That's
Yep.
mine, that I have bushes. But it looks really cool with the greenery in the background. I've seen some crazy profile pictures. I've seen a family of people wearing karate outfits as a picture. I mean, that's really
Interesting.
cool, but if you're doing karate, it makes sense. It
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
depends, kind of what job, that you're looking to, or what kind of brand you're looking to make yourself.
And nowadays, with the quality of the cameras on the cell phones, between an iPhone or the new Galaxies, you could probably get a really high quality headshot just with your cell phone or your friend's cell phone. You put it on the portrait mode or whatever, it'll blur out the background for you. So you don't necessarily have to go to what's the headshot place called? Glamour
Was it Glamour
Shots.
Shots?
Yeah, you
What-
don't
that
have to
was
go
the
to Glamour
90s.
Shots. Is that even a thing anymore?
I think I got Glamour Shots.
I think we all did.
Yikes. But I have some tips too if about landing the job that you really want that will
Okay.
help you stand out. So like we talked about, you want to make sure your LinkedIn's up to date because more likely than not, they're going to do some background research on you. They might look at your LinkedIn or your Facebook,
Oh.
or something. So make that private, probably. If
Okay.
there's stuff on there you don't want people to see. And like I mentioned, after you apply for a job, call a day or two after if that's something that you're interested in. Here's another tip too. If you're like serial applying like to hundreds and hundreds of jobs and you get a call from an unknown number, yeah, it could be a telemarketer, but it could also be from one of those jobs. And you don't want to pick up the phone and be like, who is this? What company is this? What job is this? Because it will make you look really bad. I recommend having it go to voicemail, hear what it says. That way you have a one-up and can get prepared before you call them back so you know what job it is so you
Great
can stand
tip.
out.
Great tip. Because it's going to look like you're flooding with, and you're like, you'll even say, I applied to tons of places. Can you remind me who this is?
Ugh, I've heard that so many times and I'm like, click, not a fit.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yep. They're
So-
like, what company is this?
I think the other important thing is to set up a nice voicemail message
Yes.
where you sound very, very professional and clear and concise, upbeat, not like, yo, it's Blake, leave it, right?
Yeah, no.
And I would prefer an actual voice recording over the you've reached telephone number 373, right?
Yes, and what's funny is I've actually called candidates that have applied, heard their voicemail, and I knew right away not a fit.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is not going to work. Also, I want to mention too, another cool way to get a one up on a company is going back to LinkedIn. Anybody who has LinkedIn, you can go in the search bar, search for that company name. It will pull up the company. and there'll be tabs there, and there's a people tab. If you click that people tab, there'll be a search bar there. You can type in recruiter, you can type in human resources, and it will pull up all those key decision makers for hiring for you. And what I'd recommend is you can connect with them and send them a message, just like as if you're calling them, and just say, hey, I saw this job opportunity, I applied, I would love to talk to somebody about it. So that way you're actually not only applying and calling, but you're also connecting on LinkedIn with these people, and that's a great way to target those people.
It's a great idea. And it's just like that. You just because you don't know them now doesn't mean that you can't look up their information and contact them directly. I've done that in sales where I'm trying to get to the a certain decision maker in a company, and you just you could use the yellow pages back in the day, or now you can go on things like LinkedIn and you find the person who you're looking for and you reach out to them directly. I think that shows a level of confidence and a level of know-how that could be potentially beneficial as an employee.
And it shows you're interested too in the opportunity compared to somebody else who's just serial applying and doesn't really care. But yeah, definitely a great tip. Also, you want to make your resume stand out as well. So I took down some tips to help you all out there. People don't know this, but recruiters that review your resume decide what they want to do with you in 6 seconds. So if you write a resume that has all these words in it and everything, we have 6 seconds to decide what's going to happen. So either you're going to draw us in or you're going to turn us away from you. So I have some tips. Is number one, because we only have 6 seconds, make it look nice and professional. Make it look organized. Make it look clean and polished. Word has some free templates that you can use.
I was going to ask about templates.
There's a lot of free templates. My resume that I was submitting was a Word template, and I heard back from 5 companies that I applied to.
Nobody's going to look down on you for using a template.
No.
They appreciate it because it's formatted in a clear, concise manner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as long as it's clean and polished, organized, you're getting closer to being in. Number 2, you want to keep it to 1 page. I know it's difficult. I used to have this problem before I was a recruiter. Why is that? Because again, we only have 6 seconds to look at everything that's going on. Here's a tip. If you have multiple jobs that have the same responsibilities, only list bullet points for one of them. You can list the other jobs as a one-liner because it's very similar. Or if you're someone like myself who switched industries, I was in banking for 12 years, switched over to recruiting. So when I was applying for other recruiting jobs, I kept my banking on there, but as one-liners, so it was a very small section of the resume, and the remaining of the resume was all recruiting experience. So you want to gear your resume towards the job that you're looking for. Don't fill it with fluff because we don't got time for that. So you got to get to the specifics of the job you're looking for, tailor it to it, make it 1 page, edit, if at all possible. For more higher level positions, it might be 2 pages long based on the experience, but everybody rule of thumb 1 page.
I think this is really, really powerful because it's almost counterintuitive because you want to be detailed and you want to show all of your different skill sets and your great, in-depth work history. So I think that's really powerful. Because I would think, well, if I make it too short and sweet, they're going to think I'm lazy or I'm not being detail-oriented. No. Okay.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
You'd have a one-up. Here's another tip that people don't think about is if you have a job description of a job, they already have bullet points in it. If you have experience that matches those bullet points, I'm not saying plagiarize and copy it, but write it in your own words. So that way you're actually matching the job description too, and it shows that you're customizing your resume to that job.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's a great piece of advice.
And last and not least, but have a friend or a family member double check your resume. I've worked at companies that are really strict on grammar and punctuation. So if they see any of that, they're immediately just going to pass.
Pass on a missed period or probably more often with multiple. One is potentially a simple oversight. Multiple is like, no go.
Some people some companies are more flexible with that, but don't take the chance.
Yeah.
Just be, safe than sorry and just, have somebody review it.
Yeah, I love that.
Definitely. Also, before you go for an interview, you want to make sure you prepare. So ways that you do that is do research on the company, even if it's a little bit. You don't have to know everything about it, but maybe know when it was founded, maybe know what industry that they're in, just maybe see how many people work there so you get an idea of the size of it. Is it global? Is it national? Is it just a mom and pop? Just get an idea for a feel for the company, because it will show that you actually care about the job, that you took the time to do research on it. So that's really important. Also do research on the interviewer. If you know the name of the person that's interviewing you, pull up their LinkedIn profile, see what they've been doing. Maybe you can connect with them on something. Maybe they're in a group that you're in a group with, and you can connect with them on some sort of level that will help you stand out too.
So there's definitely a benefit to, I hate to use this term, but there's a term that's old school. It's like blowing smoke up someone's skirt. It's probably the worst term ever. But it's like you are gaining knowledge about the company, about the person, and then creating positive interactions based on the information that you know, which I think going into an interview with that knowledge also makes you more confident. And people want confidence. And I think a lot of people lack confidence, especially when you're in a position where you need this job.
Right.
And it's like you're almost like subservient, and it doesn't, you feel like you leave your confidence at the door. But knowing what you're talking about, knowing about the business, knowing who you're talking to, these are all things that can add to your confidence when going into the interview.
Right. And it's just, again, a little bit of information. Don't spend hours looking
Okay.
into it. Just have a base foundation of it. And because you'd be surprised, a lot of people don't. And this will really make you stand out.
Yeah, cool.
So really cool stuff. Also, make sure you understand the job. So you want to review the job description, responsibilities, because if you don't know what job you're going in there, I can't even tell you how many interviews I've had and they don't even know what the job is. You may even be asked, hey, tell me what your interpretation of the job is, and you'll be kind of doing a pop quiz. So you want to make sure that you're prepared in case that happens to you too.
Do you think that by doing a flood the internet with resumes is going to actually hinder you from being as knowledgeable as possible when you get these interviews? Do you think it's like almost like you should be more of a sniper and less of a spray and pray, if that makes sense?
You can do either way, honestly. If you are a spray and pray, like I said, just make sure any unknown numbers go to your voicemail.
Yep.
So that way you have a one-up on knowing what the company is. And if it's not for you, you don't have to call them back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your time's valuable and so is theirs, and you don't want to waste your time or their time. So
yeah, and then if you get the interview, that's a good time to do the research.
then do the research.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. But if you know where you want to work and the company you want to work for, then you can just make sure to hit all the bases, connect with them on LinkedIn, call the next day, that sort of thing. But if you're just serial applying, do it.
Yeah, okay.
And then see what happens. I also have some tips too, how to make a great first impression on an interview. I'm at the end of my list here, so I gotta
No,
move
it's
it up.
okay.
So like I said, have the job description in front of you, whether it's virtual or in person, have that with you. And also have a copy of your resume. If it's in person, bring 2 copies of your resume, because you don't know if you're going to be meeting with somebody else. And it just shows that you're prepared, that you actually care about the job, because you took the time to prepare the resumes, learn about the company, that sort of thing. Also, if it's a virtual interview, test the equipment ahead of time. I can't tell you how many times I've been on interviews and it's wasting my time. I'm waiting 5-10 minutes for somebody to join. They're having technical difficulties. They didn't take the time to prepare their equipment or test anything. So that's really important.
So do a Zoom call with a friend or family member first, so you're comfortable with using it, making sure your microphone is working properly.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to just restart your computer and that'll get everything going. And if you're doing that at the beginning of an interview, not good.
And make sure you have a good background. I would say like a solid, clean, polished background. I've had interviews with people in their kitchen with liquor bottles everywhere. You would be surprised. So just, keep in mind your background. Keep in mind your attire too. See how I'm wearing blue today?
Yes.
I was recently on a call with our women's network, and it was a previous anchor at CBS. And she said, any shade of blue is a great color whenever you're presenting or on an interview. It just really goes really well with the virtual environment. So wear blue.
Specifically virtually, or it's good with both, but very good when you're on camera.
Very good when you're on camera.
Sorry,
Exactly.
we have a kennel downstairs. This is what we get when we're live.
Should we
from
do a
Hakuna.
cheers break?
Yeah,
real quick?
absolutely. Boolah.
Hola.
I'm really interested to hear if you have any horror stories.
I do. I will get to those. I just have
No problem.
some
Yeah.
more impressions.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
yes, I definitely do for sure. I actually have a what to avoid.
Yeah, okay.
information.
Excellent.
Also, show up early. Usually rule of thumb is 10 to 15 minutes, even if it's virtual. Even show up on time. I can't tell you how many people are late. That's crazy for us. Keep it professional and polished. Even if you're going for an interview, let's say at Target, they wear the khakis or, some sort of not as professional place, still dress business casual. It will make you stand out. It will show that you care, that you took the time to put yourself together.
My dad has, I mention my father a lot because I look up to him in business, and he's always giving me tips and tricks. He would tell me, dress as the person whose position you want and not at the position that you are, and I think that kind of goes along with what you're saying. Like dress a level up, and it just puts you in a better light.
And what's really cool too is when you are interviewing, whether in person or virtually, what is the other person wearing? That will give you an idea of what the attire is in the environment as well. So you don't necessarily have to ask that question. You can just see how everyone else is dressed.
I was just going to say, is it rude? Is it amateur to say, what should I wear?
No, I mean, I've been asked that question, but you can probably answer some of those questions when you're observing around. So it's not just you kind of putting yourself out there, you're also interviewing them too. And so you can kind of see what the environment is like and everything while you're in the interview.
Cool.
Also, here's a big one. Look like you're interested to be there. Smile, acknowledge, nod, because it will show that you're engaged in the conversation. I've had interviews where candidates are like this. They're answering questions, looking to the heavens to know what the answers are, and heaven isn't giving those answers. So
I think that's a confidence thing. I also think it's like an ADD thing. I see it, like I have terrible ADD, and it's something I have to personally work on staying engaged with somebody while I'm speaking with them. But I've seen it where I'm telling somebody something, and as I'm telling it to them, they're like this.
And it's okay, it's normal to look away. It'd be weird if you were just staring at someone the whole time. But
right.
Eye contact's really important. Make it look normal. Again, going back to the creepy thing, don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. Very cool. Also, give specific examples when you're answering questions. I can't tell you how many people my last company did not hire because they did not give specific examples. So for instance, we would ask, well, give me an example of a time you demonstrated teamwork. And I would get answers like, well, I stayed late to cover my, coworker shift. Well, a lot of us stay late to cover a coworker shift. What else did you do? Give me a specific example. Well, I volunteered to join the women's committee to help redesign this website, and I coordinated all this stuff. Like, that's more specific.
Yeah, okay.
And it also tells us about your past behavior and how you may act in situations in the future. So as recruiters, we like to ask behavioral questions and not just like, oh, well, what are your thoughts on this? Or yes or no questions. So we want to know what you've done. So be prepared to come with specific examples as well.
Is there a place, like a resource, where somebody could get an idea of what these types of questions would be in an interview? Is it like to be able to be prepared for, I would imagine there's, obviously you can get like a really creative recruiter who's going to ask some really creative questions, but I'd imagine there's kind of like a baseline of behavioral type questions, situational type questions, or is that really just like get out there, you're going to botch a couple interviews and you're going to realize where you need to improve and what information you need to have? Is there a place where they can get that leg up on potential questions in an interview?
I mean, you can Google, you can go to career centers. I know from my experience, just know what your strengths are.
Yep.
What are your weaknesses? What are some really cool achievements that you've done in your career that you're really proud of? Just think
Cool.
of those examples and
Yep.
you'll have them in your back pocket when you need them. And some of it is on the, you're winging it because you don't know what they're going to ask you. But
Right.
at least you'll have the basics of some examples, and those are transferable to a lot of different questions. So.
Cool. Love that.
Very cool stuff. Also bring a notebook and a pen. Take notes. It shows that you're actually engaged in listening and actively listening to the recruiter or the HR rep, and you're taking notes on the job and everything. Also come prepared with questions. Now, with this, I get a lot of questions that I used to get are, what are the benefits and what are the perks for me being on the job?
And how much do I get paid?
How much do I get paid? All that. That's okay to ask about that, but we want to know, how interested are you in this job? So you want to ask questions like, How do you measure success? How is my success measured in this role? Who will I be reporting to? What are the expectations of me in this position? So you're asking role specific questions. And of course, along the interview, if you have any questions, ask them as well. I've also had interviews where people have no questions.
Right.
Well, what are
The
you not
interviewer
interested in?
says, now, do you have any questions for me? And a lot of times, like, nope. Well, how much will I get paid? You know,
Right.
so coming prepared with questions specific to the job is invaluable, I think. And it also shows, like you said, that you're engaged in what you would be doing there. Also, I think it's very important to go into a business relationship where everybody understands, like, expectations and responsibilities. So those questions that you said there, what will be the expectations of me? What are my responsibilities? Those are great questions that you could probably never go wrong with asking.
Exactly. And remember I told you that story, how I applied to a job, called the next day, got the interview?
Yes.
I asked the question, how do you measure success? Obviously, I got the
Wow.
job.
Yeah.
So that's the best, I would say probably one of the best questions to ask. So keep that in your back pocket.
Oh, I
for
love
sure.
that.
And here's some bonus points. So if you want to earn bonus points on your interview, as I mentioned, recruiters' times are very valuable. Thank them. Thank them after, when you're wrapping up the interview, just say, hey, thank you so much for your time interviewing me. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed learning about everything. That will give you a one up because we really appreciate that because our time is valuable. Your time is valuable. We're busy interviewing people and we just appreciate that acknowledgement. Also, always make sure to send a thank you email. You can do it right after the interview, a day after. I wouldn't wait too long just to thank them. I know in my most recent position that I have, I had, probably 4 or 5 interviewers. I sent each of them a thank you email. Keep it 2 to 4 sentences. You don't want to be, again, don't go creepy. Keep it light and airy, 1 to 2 sentences. Hey, it was great speaking with you today. I really enjoyed learning more about the opportunity. I look forward to hearing back from you. Boom, period, done.
That's fantastic. I think maybe there's a benefit to some of us aren't as organized as others. Sometimes using a calendar on your phone to remind yourself to do these tasks could be beneficial, right? If
yeah.
you have an interview with such and such at certain time, right in your phone, Google Calendar, you can set up reminders and notifications to remind you to do certain tasks, i.e. you do the interview, then the next day have a reminder to send a thank you email. Obviously,
Right.
these should be like, no-brainers, but if you're going to tons of different job interviews and you're stressed and whatnot, these reminders can be super helpful.
Post-it notes.
Yeah.
I love post-it notes.
Yeah, see, I lose the Post-it notes, or I put it up and I look at it. Something because of, maybe it's generational, or maybe it's because I'm so used to the technology now. When I'm, scrolling Facebook and I get that notification, then it's right there in my hand with where I type my email from. While we're talking about emails, do you have a suggested format for your email? I know you mentioned 2 or 3 sentences. Is it important to have that signature line where it has your email address and your phone number and maybe a picture of you? Do you have a header on your email? Or do you just open it up, be like, hey, Charlie, thanks, and then dash Blake, right? It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, subject line, thank you. You can put
Okay.
it, that's it.
Okay.
Subject, thank you. Again, you don't want to go too overboard, lengthy. You want to keep it light, airy, that sort of thing. So thank you. And then, like I said, 2 to 4 sentences. And then you can just sign it your first and last name.
Okay.
You can put your phone number or email below it if you'd like. I've seen it both ways. I don't care either or. I already have your contact information because we
Okay.
spoke and I have your email.
Right.
But it doesn't bother me.
You're
so-
just appreciative to get the thank you email.
Yes, because
Yeah.
it shows that you are interested. I've had, candidates ghost me after that. It's crazy, but it's okay. Maybe it's not a fit for you, and you don't want to waste my time anymore or the process, and that's okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's when people are saying to their spouse or their parents, well, they never called me back. It's like, well, you never followed up. You never sent a thank you email. You never hit them up a week later saying, hey, I'm just still thinking about you. If there's any... Okay, let me ask you this. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
When you
you're
do
good.
a follow-up email a week later, is that also just touching base? Wanted to see, maybe is good language, wanted to see if there was any other information that you needed from me, really excited about this opportunity. Is that all kind of good language to do in that follow-up email?
Yeah, you can actually just respond to the thank you email, and just so that way it's in the same email string, and just say,
Cool.
pretend the guy's name is George.
Yep.
The hiring managers say, "Hi, George. Really enjoyed our conversation that we had last week. I'm very interested in this opportunity. Is there anything else you need from me to keep the process moving along? Do you know when I can expect to hear back?"
Oh, that's good. Asking when you can expect to hear back.
Ask a question so it triggers a response.
Yeah, so the ball's now in their court.
Exactly.
Okay, very cool.
And you may or may not hear back. If you're not a fit for the position and that person's really busy, you may hear back, you may not. Don't take it personal. Maybe send one more follow-up email and then just let it go.
Okay.
And move on, and that's okay.
But don't show up there knocking on the door.
No.
Okay. Is that common that you wouldn't get a call back where if it's like just not a good fit, it's because you're very busy, right? You can't call
times,
back
yeah.
every person and say, "No, I'm sorry, you didn't make it." You just kind of have to take that. And that's interesting because you said you got a call back 3 months later. There's not really a time frame. They've got your information. They might have a better candidate lined up. That candidate ends up showing themselves to be an ass, and then you get a call. So like you said,
That could be it too.
right.
You never know.
Don't let it kill your spirits. Just keep after it.
Here's another thing that I learned in this job, and every company's different. We can also post jobs looking for candidates for the future. So you might be applying to a job where they're just building a pipeline and there isn't necessarily a job until it comes up, but they do foresee something coming up soon. So they're
Yep.
just kind of building a pipeline too. Maybe that's why you didn't hear back too. Or
Right.
maybe they put it on hold because there's an internal candidate. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. It's not just
Interesting.
because they're not interested in you.
Right.
That's not it at all. Well, it could be, but
There could be many other reasons
many other
why you
reasons,
haven't
yeah.
gotten a call back.
Exactly. And to our favorite part, what to avoid on an interview. So some things that I've seen is chewing gum. You don't want to chew gum on an interview. I'd highly discourage about being in your car if it's like a video interview, unless if it's a phone interview, that's fine. Make sure you're in a quiet place where you can focus on the interview. I've done interviews with, people that have their pets and kids, and that's okay. I understand, if you're home or that sort of thing, but, maybe, your spouse can watch the kids or the pets, or if not, maybe see if you can, work around it and just prepare so that way you can focus on the interview because it is distracting. True story. So I had an interview. This was probably the worst interview I've ever had. Was the person was not professionally dressed. She had bees all over her shirt, like pattern bees. She also had her face really close up to the picture. So that's why you always have to prepare ahead of time and see how you look. Also, her cat was climbing all over her during the interview. I had another interview too where, and also she talked about herself the whole time of how great she was. So again, just saying, "Oh, I'm really great at this. I'm awesome." I probably only asked 2 questions during the interview because I couldn't talk. You don't want to overtake the interview.
Yeah.
You want to let the recruiter guide it. Be clear and precise and to the point with your answers to the questions. Because if you're a long-winded person and you talk a lot, it's a turnoff. So you want to make sure that you cut out the fluff, get to the point, make it like a conversation. Otherwise, you're going to lose interest in the recruiter, and they won't be able to see you talking to clients or talking to other people or working with people because they're going to want to bang their head against the wall.
Interesting. That's a nervous response of over talking. A lot of people are not comfortable with silence, and they're afraid to put a period on their sentence. And it's like you got to learn, like, answer clear and concise, period on the sentence, and then give it back to the interviewer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let them guide you through it. You don't take it over and hijack it.
Yeah, understood.
So definitely. Also, make sure you have good posture. I probably don't have good posture.
It's tough up here.
It's
like,
tough. It's like, ooh. But yeah, I've had interviews where someone's slouching on a couch, just like chilling.
Oh, like lean back.
Just like, yeah, lean back. That's not okay. You want to be attentive and look like you're engaged. Again, don't talk about how great you are. Give examples of how great you are, what you've done, what you've accomplished, which is really great. Make sure you dress professionally. We talked about that. And again, with the pets, you don't want them climbing on you. If they're barking, that's okay. Just try to, prepare ahead of time. So
Yeah. Have you heard of mirroring?
mirror.
Like if we were doing this interview and I would be mirroring
Like
your
this.
posture, right? Like if I notice that you're sitting like this, you want it to be subtle, but I think I've heard subconsciously it's a way for body language to connect in an interview. So if I get more like this, then you wouldn't do it right away, but maybe a second later you would adjust to mirror my body language. You have not heard of that.
I haven't heard of that, but to me, I guess, again, going back to the creepy factor.
Correct.
You don't want to be creepy.
You want it
about
to be subtle.
Yes.
And I think where I've heard it is less in a job interview and more in a
See, now I'm doing it.
a broadcasting interview. If you're interviewing somebody and you want them to be comfortable with you and you want them to answer their questions and whatnot, mirroring is a good psychological tool to use. So yeah, don't be a creep and like mirror every move, but I think it's something to be thoughtful of, because they're going to kind of lead the way on what to be expected and whatnot. Like now, okay, so say the guy in the interview, who's the interviewer, he's slouching, do you like, well, I guess we slouch in this job. No, always act as if act at the highest level you can be.
And you know what, too, when you are interviewing with someone, again, time is valuable. So if you're not a fit, you might know that pretty soon. If the interview's only 10, 15 minutes, maybe you might be able to get all the information out in that time. But if they don't ask, what you're looking for salary or what your expectations are, and if you have any other offers or deadlines, if they don't ask those questions or the interview's really quick, they might be wrapping it up because they're not considering you as a candidate.
Interesting. Anytime I talk about think about an interview, I think about the scene from Step Brothers. Have you seen this scene?
I've seen it, but I don't know if I remember
They
it.
both go to the interview together, and one is sitting behind the other, and he can't. Will Ferrell can't get the name right of the woman. Her name is Pam, and he keeps saying Pan, or Pamba with a B. And then the brother pokes his head out from behind, and he's like, "I think I can help with the whole Pam debacle. So don't show up with your brother or your friend
No.
to an interview,
Or a cat.
or a cat, or your
a dog.
mom. What about that?" So some people who are listening are going to be teenagers, or are going to be late teenagers, and their mom really wants them to get an effing job so they can get out of the house, and the mom thinks, "I can help this." And she goes to speak to the hiring manager. Hard no.
Yeah, that's a no. However, again, going back to your network of friends and family, your mom might know somebody at a really cool company that has a job opening.
Yeah, okay, well
She
said.
can help talk about it, get your resume to that person, and call them.
Yeah,
So,
well said. But your mom showing up at Publix
No.
and asking for the manager so you can get a bag boy job. Moms take note. Don't show up and try to get us jobs.
No, I don't know if that's ever worked anywhere, but
Right.
yeah, I would say no, don't do that.
Yeah, I think I bring it up because I think I've seen it in person where I was checking out at a Publix and I saw that the mom came in with the kid, and I guess maybe it was like for the kid, he's like nervous and the mom wants to get the gears turning, which that I understand, but if you're looking for a job, have confidence in yourself, show up. Nice firm handshake, look somebody in the eye.
Or maybe no handshake because of COVID stuff. You gotta really be
right.
mindful of the environment and just see how it goes in
Interesting.
the comfort level.
Yeah, it's a whole new world that we live in.
Yes.
I think this has been really, really helpful information. I really appreciate you sitting down with us today. If people
Thanks
want
for thanking me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And thank you as well for
Oh,
your time.
well, thank you for thanking me for
Yes.
thanking you.
Yes.
If people would like to ask you more questions, do you have a way that people can contact you? Are you open to that? Or you have maybe social media where people can reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's Christel Rosie. So you can reach out to me. A lot of people know me anyways around here, but feel
Cool.
free if you see me around or if you want to message me. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So,
Awesome. We'll put your Instagram handle in the description of the video here.
Awesome.
Any final thoughts, or we've kind of touched on everything?
yeah, I think we touched on anything unless you have any other questions.
No, I just really appreciate, it's a time in this world where we need more people in the workforce.
Yes.
And there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think that people need to get up and get after it.
Yes.
And also maybe don't look at everything as like a career that you're going to be stuck in for the rest of your life, right? If you need a job, go get the job. Do a great job, and every job you do, you're going to learn something that you're going to be able to take into your next job. Sometimes people are afraid to jump off the cliff because they feel like they're going to get, into a job they hate. It's like, just get going, start doing something, learn, and believe in yourself, because you're capable of anything and everything if you put your mind to it.
You know what? One saying I've heard very frequently is, to get comfortable, you need to get uncomfortable.
Well
to
said.
grow, you need to get uncomfortable. So get uncomfortable. I promise you, you won't feel that way forever. You're going to learn some great skills, and it's very normal to change jobs. But you want to be mindful not to be a job hopper, because that is a turnoff. When you see
Okay.
on a resume, you change jobs every couple months or every year, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, understood. We believe in you guys. Get out there,
Yes.
start generating some revenue, and kick ass. You've got this. Christel,
Cheers.
Hula, thank you
Hula.
so much for joining us
Thanks for
today.
having me.
My friends, thank you for being a fly on the wall during this conversation. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, like, comment, subscribe. Check out Christel on social media. And we will see you next time live from
See ya.
Hakuna. Thanks, guys. Later. Thanks, Christel.
Yeah, thanks.